Well, good evening. Welcome to our May school board meeting. As our custom, if you will, please stand for a moment of silence, followed by the pledge led by Mr. Spivey. Before we approve our consent agenda, we didn't make it. We had a longer work session than we anticipated. There's a couple things that we didn't make it through. One being letter E, the Gear Up Grant Partnership. Ms. Magic's going to speak to that before we approve this consent agenda.
Test. Sorry about that. Okay, I just wanted to share with the board that we have been presented with a grant opportunity through East Tennessee State University. It's connected with the TRIO programs. Dr. Ronnie Gross is over the program. Again, it's called the Gear Up Grant, and Gear Up stands for Gaining Early Awareness and Readiness for Undergraduate Programs. The grant would be administered through ETSU. Again, the TRIO programs under the direction of Ronnie Gross. It's a highly competitive, federally funded grant through the Department of Education. It is national in scope, improving college readiness and success for low-income students. Gear Up Grant has been around for years, actually since 1998. Congress authorized the program, so again, it's been around for years. So I would like to give you a little bit of an overview on the grant and its intent and purpose. So the objectives of the grant are to increase academic performance and preparation for post-secondary education, increase the rate of high school graduation and the participation into post-secondary education, and increase educational expectations for participating students, and increase student and family knowledge of post-secondary education. Next, I'll share with you the focus and go into detail about the objectives of the grant. So the grant would be providing early intervention and services to a cohort of students in a specific feeder pattern, and that specific feeder pattern would be 6th and 7th grade students in our middle schools. So we would probably start out with 7th grade in the fall and then 6th grade in the spring. And the program funding and activities would follow that student from the 6th or 7th grade all the way through high school and 1 year of post-secondary. The annual budget per student is $800, but not limited to $800. A lot of the focus is on barriers that these students face when considering going on to post-secondary and having a college or career. The focus would facilitate completion of rigorous courses, and by definition, rigorous means a course that academically would be one grade level higher than what they are in. provide academic and social support, engage students and families about the values of education, and guide students and families through the college process. The Gear Up approach, again, is a cohort approach in which entire classes of students, no later than 7th grade, must be enrolled in a school where at least 50% of the student population qualifies for free and reduced lunch. All of our middle schools and our high schools fall under this category, and that's how we were eligible to be wrote into this grant. Gear Up then follows your designated cohort as they transition to and through high school and optionally through the first year of post-secondary education. A dollar match was not required from Sullivan County Department of Education. The match came from in-kind services through partners, scholarships, and tuition waivers. So Sullivan County would not have any monetary input or match into this grant at all. The objectives of the framework are built around outcomes and student outcomes, and these are just some outcomes that would be considered. Pass pre-algebra by the 8th grade, pass algebra by the end of the 9th grade, take 2 years of math beyond Algebra 1 by the 12th grade, be on track to graduate high school, on track to apply for college by the 11th grade, graduate high school, complete the FAFSA, enroll into college, placed into college level math and English without any remediation, and enroll in college and are on track to graduate from college. These are all objectives of the program by the time they reach high school. I talked to Dr. Ronnie Gross today, Mr. Carter and I, and at first we were looking at approximately $200,000 annually, and he told us today that Sullivan County would possibly get $400,000 annually to be used for coordinators, counselors, that can be within the daytime hours or before school, after school, or for summer programs. Provide program for the students. The grant can cover transportation, programs, activities, equipment, supplies, and materials. Should we or should ETSU be awarded this grant, we would know something by the end of July 2024, and we could start immediately after that. But I wanted to share all this with you to get your approval and your permission to go forward should ETSU be awarded this grant. Thank you.
Thank you. And the only other issue that we had that we didn't get to talk about was a small change to the calendar. I'm gonna let Mr. Carter address that real quick.
Okay, in your packet, you have the 24-25 school year calendar. Asking to, on the consent agenda tonight, we've had to modify that with 2 dates that will be added as staff development days due to the fact that the number of days with students exceeded what we need to have in the contract for teachers. So teachers will not have students on 2 additional days, August the 26th and March the 3rd, but those will be staff developmental days. And students will not attend. So students in the audience, you'll have 2 additional days next year that you won't be expected to be in class, but our teachers would be working. So ask for that to be approved as well. No, that's it is contract days that we had just put in there, I guess unintentionally, that we had as student days, but we needed to back those out.
All right, I think that concludes everything on the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve that? Motion by Mr. Robinson.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hughes. All in favor? Aye. All right. Moving on to you.
Thank you, Ms. Price.
I jumped you. There is nobody here to speak on agenda items, correct? Everything's non-agenda? Okay. Turn it over to you.
All right. Director's comments tonight. Few things to mention before we go into some presentations and recognitions. Want to start out that May 1st, yesterday, was school principal day. I saw some recognition by our schools out about their principals. We certainly do appreciate their leadership, and we have some of those in the building tonight. We certainly do want to recognize how much value we have in our administrators and the work that they do and the leadership that they provide. School Nurse Day, and we have some exceptional healthcare providers in our schools, and we're very thankful for the professionalism and the quality work that they provide. But that School Nurse Day will be identified as May the 8th. I want to recognize. And then next week, May 6th through the 10th, and this is the true boots on the ground in our schools, Teacher Appreciation Week. So we wanted to take a moment to recognize and say thank you to all of our teachers, and that will be done as a Teacher Appreciation Week, May 6th through the 10th. Next on our agenda, we've had some very successful competitions, statewide competitions, and others to be recognized over the next month or so. But we wanted to bring in tonight our Skills USA winners and some of the sponsors for those CTSOs, which the purpose of the CTSO is to allow the student to really engage in their programs of study through career and technical education. So, for example, a student in the construction program of study is competing against students across the state to do things like building walls or whatever, and they have a certain amount of time. It's very high pressure, and we've just done exceptionally well this year, and I'm so proud to get to do this recognition at this time and show what Sullivan County has produced in the way of state champions and placers. And some of these students will be going on to their national competitions as the next level. So we'll start out by recognizing students from Sullivan East High School in their competition. Students, and if you would, if you and any of the sponsors that are here with them tonight, if you'll come up as well. And let's just make a line right across here, and then we'll recognize everybody at the end after we get them up here. But Braden Beber, Mobile Robotics, placed first in the state. Congratulations. If you want to just line up across there. Noah Dillon, Mobile Robotics, first in the state. Caleb Smithson, Computer Programming, first in the state. J.C. Barrett in First Aid and CPR, first in the state. Timothy Wise in the firefighting category, first in the state. Luke Howell in carpentry, first in the state. James Shirk in the CNC 5-axis milling programmer, first in the state. Frederick Bridgman, CNC 2-axis turning programmer, first in the state. You all stay up here, but these are state champions, and when we say that, the competition is very, very competitive. These students have beat out every school system in the state of Tennessee. So before we bring up our second and third place finishers, which we're still extremely proud of, I think this group we need to give special recognition. let's keep you right up here, and we want to get a picture, okay? You all stay right here. Mr. Hughes is going to come down and get a photograph. Then after the picture, if y'all stay here, I'd like to ask just a question to speak on. So if one of you would just speak to the level of competition, and you can look around and choose somebody to speak, or two or three of you can go if you want to. It doesn't matter. But what is a state competition in your field? What was it like? Where were you at? And what was the competition field like?
Jake.
There you go. Yeah, push that little button there, JC.
Okay, there we go. So for mine, I did first aid and CPR. So we went to a room, and they just kind of briefed us of what we would do. So we went in there, and they just gave us a scenario. Like, for example, you're at a baseball game, a 53-year-old male suddenly collapsed. What do? Go. And you just do whatever you think you should do. And so, like, that one required CPR, and then you do CPR on a child and an infant. And then they give you 3 medical scenarios, and one was like an allergic reaction, the other one was a heat stroke, and then I think the other one was a heart attack. So, and you just treat them however you think you would in the real world. So,
Good. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
Hey, hey, Mr. Shirk.
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Shirk. Remember me? Tell us about the CNC. Yeah, tell us about it.
Okay, so for what I did for the CNC, you, gosh. Okay, so what I had to do is I had to have my own computer, and they gave me a file that I had to put onto the computer that I would then program. And for my 5-axis, I actually had to program the foot pedal from a dirt bike.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
about it. I can go.
And that's under a time constraint
Yes,
as well.
I had
of course.
4 hours to do it.
4 hours. Did it take you the whole 4 hours?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Congratulations. We Oh yeah. Any family members of any of our first place winners from Sullivan East, they're here. If you please stand and let us recognize you as well. The students, we owe you a lot of recognition as well. Hey, thank you. Thank you for your support. All right, if we can have our champions, we'll let you all sit down. We'll do our second and third place from the East, and then we'll move to our West Ridge competitors. All right. Now, if I could have Caden Ward, computer programming. Is Caden here this evening? Caden finished second in the state. Still an amazing accomplishment. Carson Shake, urban search and rescue robotics. Come on up, Carson. Second place in the state. Rhodey Stevens, urban search and rescue robotics. Second in the state. John Wise, principles of engineering and technology. Second in the state. Colton Osborne, CNC programmer. Second in the state. Anna Rumley, restaurant service, second in the state. And Michaela Davis, action skills, third in the state. Let's start out by giving this group a big hand. I believe Mr. Hughes is going to come down. While he's coming down to get a picture, how many of this group are seniors? Show of hands. All right, so 3 returners for next year. Juniors? Okay. Sophomore? Freshman? Wow. Hey, Congratulations, you got a long way to get that championship for the next 3 years. Thank you very much. Parents, anybody from this group, if you would stand, please, let's give you all a hand as well. Thank you for your support. Thank you, thank you. All right, then for our students competing in Skills USA from Westridge, same thing, we'll recognize our champions first. Jacob Bellamy, Automotive Service Tech, first in the state, champion. Okay. I've been informed we may have several of these students who will not be here because of a previous engagement with the school. Sarah Alvis, chapter display, first. Dakota Cleek, chapter display, first. Zach Jeter, chapter display, first. Luke Atkinson, digital cinema, second. Abe Valletta, digital cinema, second. Gracie Sproils, welding sculptures, second. And Addison Schaefer, customer service, third. Okay, but let's give them a big hand for their accomplishments as well. And I appreciate Mr. Price on this one. Any of the sponsors or the club sponsors that traveled with the students and helped prepare them from this, if you're here this evening, would you please stand? I know we have some of them right back here. We definitely appreciate them. Let's give them a big hand. Thank each and every one of you. And it's necessary to take just a moment to speak about these individuals. The CTSOs require a lot of time, and that time is not compensated back to them financially. The compensation that they receive is that group of students who are standing right here that took the first place and second place and third place in the state. They do it for one reason only. It's because they care about our students. They invest a tremendous amount of time, and it's not over yet. Those students who have finished high in those categories are going to go on and compete across the country in national championships. So we appreciate you and good luck at the next level. Thank you all. Thank you. Another group of individuals that we want to recognize tonight, and if you're here, if you're one of our teachers and you were awarded one of the U Trust mini grants, these were grants up to $4,420 was the max that they could write into their grants. They had to submit an application, and then there were grants across the state that were awarded this by U Trust. And in Sullivan County, we had a total of $44,200 awarded to teachers in our system. And I'd just like to ask them to come up and stand across the front and let us recognize you and give you a hand as well for doing this for our students. So at Emmett Elementary, a grant of $450 for a program called Rewrite Kids Tablets. Ms. Gloria Watson. I think we can recognize these. Also from Emmett Elementary, grant in the amount, well, no, this one, no, $4,328 for 3D printing lab, Jennifer Armstrong. Couldn't be here this evening. Thank you, though, for Mrs. Armstrong. From Holston Elementary, a grant in the amount of $4,291 for headphones and a learning farm, Jada Sherfy. Jada? Thank you, Jada. From Mary Hughes Elementary, $3,661 for pre-K robotics. Thank you for the lead in on the robotics, Miss Boyd, Melissa Boyd. For Miller Perry Elementary, a grant in the amount of $4,401 for a letter press art supplies, Melissa Lipscomb. All right. From Rock Springs Elementary, $531, hands-on coding, Mrs. Julie Millard. Okay. From Rock Springs as well, $3,961, Ride to Read, Sarah Arnold. Ms. Arnold. On down, Sullivan Central Middle School, $3,795, Plant Science Hydroponics, Casey Johnson. From Sullivan County Schools, it just listed as, this is Sullivan, Christy Richardson, $1,057, SLP Access. From Sullivan East, $100 for Padlet, Virtual Notice Board, Megan Burke. At Sullivan East Middle, $4,050 for an automation project, Lucas Carr. Sullivan Heights Middle School, $4,420, agricultural technology, Richard McClure. And then at Westridge High School, $4,420 for a cybersecurity web design program for Mr. William Hudson. We'd like to say thank you for going out of your way to apply for these grants, and we look forward to seeing all that you do with the outcomes from these. So thank you very much. We appreciate you. Thank you. We, during the unfinished business, during our meeting today, we talked about the Henry Har Road property, and I think our next step on the vacant lot is going to be to propose that Lands to Home and John Tipton, we asked for a 10% deposit and then a contract signed with a 6 month, date to complete the purchase of that property. So I think we'll just be moving forward with that. We need to vote. Okay. I'll make a recommendation that we do the contract with the particulars of a 10% down and 6 month grace period.
You've heard the recommendation by Mr. Carter. Can I get a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Jones. Can I get a second? Second by Dr. Rouse. Any further discussion?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Under new business, and let me just say, I know we have a lot of students and teachers in the room. We still got a little ways to go, and you are definitely more than welcome to sit here and stay with us until the very end of this meeting. But if there are other obligations or places like supper that you need to take to, you're more than welcome to leave at this time, and it definitely won't offend any of us. So we appreciate you being here, though. Thank you. That one. Okay. Do I need to send them down? Eric was going to talk about if we wanted to. And then let him talk about it.
All right. Was we gonna make any decision on the extra lot and what we was gonna do there, or are we just holding off?
We did have an offer, an individual contacted us and was making an offer of $25,000 for the house on Henry Har with the land that goes with that lot. And we discussed that, but I don't know if we want to do a vote or any discussion or.
If, I don't think the $25,000 is acceptable as far as an offer, but if we're gonna do anything legally, we need to do sealed bids and go ahead and get Chris Davis to do the postings on that, if that's the decision of the board. And you can put a minimum in sealed bids if you want to, or you can just put sealed bids and let them start the bids where they want. But there would be no live bidding on it if we did it that way. But there would be no cost either.
So I guess the question is, are we eager to sell that property, or do we want to just sit on it, or do we want to do the sealed bids?
My personal opinion, we need to do something with it. I just feel like it's a safety issue right now. It's my opinion. I don't know how everybody else feels, but. So I'll make a motion to do the seal bids.
And I'll second that.
Do we need to, having just more discussion on this, do we need to set a minimum as part of that?
Again, this is a personal opinion, but my personal opinion is that we would take no less than what we took for the vacant lot, which was $52,000 on that. So if I were setting a minimum, I'd say it's at least the value of the land, which was $52,000 for that vacant lot we sold.
I would agree with that.
So we will amend the motion then to do sealed bids with a minimum price of $52,000. Do you agree with that, or accept that?
How many times have we ran it on the auction at that price?
We 75,000.
Yeah, I'll accept it.
Any more discussion?
It would then come back. We wouldn't have to necessarily accept that bid, correct? Okay.
We have to vote on this.
Right.
Everybody good? We're ready to vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay. Under new business, we were unable to go over the policy, updating some information, some language in the policy 4.406 on the use of internet and the use of computer systems. Before we make a recommendation for waiver of rules and adopting on the first reading, I'd like to give Mr. Maynard, Eric, just give us a brief synopsis of the language change, and then the addition of the retention of information is also included in this policy update.
So most all the recommendations that you'll see there has to do with antiquated language. Just given the time frame that the original policy was written, it's very limited in mentioning things like just the district's computer systems or just the internet. But now the reality being everything is cloud-based. We're a 100% Google school, so things like Google Drive, et cetera. So we wanted to bring that language up to date and get rid of the antiquated language, including things specifically relative to our network rather than just internet access, which again was some of the antiquated language we thought. And then on page 4, the larger inclusions for this recommendation is as we continue to look at ways to improve our cybersecurity stance, but also dealing with our massively growing digital data, being the reality that we have of being a Google school system. We thought this would be a good section to add data retention, to spell that out more defined as it relates to students who graduate or potentially transfer, and then also staff members who retire or leave the system, to have a more defined structure as far as how long we retain that data. This is data specifically relating to primarily Google, so things stored in Google Drive, Docs, things like that.
So as I said, I would like to ask for a waiver of rules and adoption of this policy change on first reading.
Heard the recommendation by Mr. Carter. Can I get a motion to that effect?
I make a motion to waive the rules here on first reading.
Motion by Mr. Hughes,
Second.
second by Dr. Rouse. Any further discussion?
On the
Mr.
policy,
Yes.
I had a concern on if someone leaves the system not of their own free will, do we immediately disconnect their email? It concerned me that if I read it correctly, that we may allow them several days there to have access to the computer. So I'd like to go back and review that and see if I'm reading that correctly.
That is, it states that the terminated employee would have a duration of 15 days, but I understand your concern.
My personal opinion is that if someone's terminated, they immediately need to lose any contact with our system here.
You could achieve the same goal, I think, that was sought by saying that terminated employees' data shall be maintained for a duration of 15 days, subject to the director's discretion as to whether they're provided it. Because, I mean, we have other policies that make it clear that those are school-owned emails, school computers, it's the school systems. I understand the intent, but that's a very valid concern. So I think we could just amend that language there.
To basically say that at the director's discretion, they have access to their specific data, such as emails or lesson plans or whatever, for a specific period of time. Would the 15 days then be acceptable?
I only use that language because that's what was proposed in the policy, but you could state terminated employees shall immediately lose access, and then period, and then subject to the director's discretion, the data may be maintained for 15 days.
I provided too.
Right. It goes on to talk about keeping it for a year, but it says that it won't be suspended till 15 days, but I think it makes more sense to suspend access, like Mr. Jones said, and then you could communicate with the employee on a case-by-case basis. I mean, unless that's specific to TSBA, I agree, there's no reason they should have access and be able to send out things on official school.
It could be the situation that's where they're being terminated, so we don't want to have access to their information unless we give them that. Sounds good. So bring that back with a revision.
I think so.
I think that'd probably be best, because we didn't get a chance to go over it up
Right.
there, and
Yeah.
that's a
I say
really
move it
good
to
point.
June.
Move it to the
Table
June.
it till June.
All right.
Everybody good?
All right. Under new business 7B, had a short abbreviated presentation by Dr. Palmer and a team on the blended learning. We won't be taking any action on that tonight. I think Dr. Palmer's going to come back with some more information to share regarding the partnership with Pearson and some other necessary information, but we will be asking for, I guess, the blessing of the board at some point soon to see if we're ready to move forward with that. The letter C, our cybersecurity insurance, did have that information, and now you do have access to the actual quotes from the three companies that submitted bids. So we will not vote on that tonight, but come back in June and make a recommendation at that time after all board members have had an opportunity to review the documents there, the bid documents. Letter D, through the work session tonight, we did have 2 bids for taking over the mowing, Barrett Mowing, and then Lawn Wizard had submitted bids. At the end of our discussion, I believe we were going to make a recommendation, or I would make a recommendation that we accept the Barrett's mowing contract bid for all 15 of our school campuses, and that'd be the recommendation, to accept that bid.
Further recommendation by Mr. Carter. Can I get a motion?
I make that motion that we accept Barrett Lawn Care.
Motion by Dr. Rouse, second by Ms. Stanley. Any further discussion?
Yes.
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 All right. Next on our list, you have a resolution on accepting the summer learning camps grant, and you have the sheet with the breakdown of the different categories that will go into. The total not to exceed $983,357.08, and that's for our summer learning camps, the grant that we've been awarded. I'd like to ask that we accept that grant.
Heard the recommendation by Mr. Carter. Can I get a motion to that effect? Motion by Mr. Robinson,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion on this one? Ready to vote?
Yeah, yes.
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 Letter F, general purpose budget amendments. This is just moving funds and it's getting down closer to the end of the year, so there's movement of some of our funds to clear out some of the lines and to support some of those lines where we may need extra funding. So ask for approval of the general purpose school fund budget amendments.
Heard the recommendation again by Mr. Carter. Can I get a motion to that effect? Motion by Dr. Rouse. Second. Second by Mr. Jones. Ready to vote?
Yes.
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 Okay, under our federal budget amendments, we have the Perkins budget amendment, letter A, the Title I McKinney-Vento amendment, revision number 3, ARP Homeless System Navigator amendment, revision number 2, D, the Access for All Learning Network, revision 1, and ATSI 22, year 22 grant. Like to consider grouping those together.
Heard the recommendation again. Can I get a motion to that effect? Group A through E together. Take one vote.
Make it.
Motion by Mr. Robinson, second by Mr. Spivey. Any discussion? Ready to vote?
Yes.
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 That's all I have at this time. Mr. Price.
Thank you,
Back
sir.
over to you.
That brings us to our public comment section on non-agenda items, and I do have 2 people wanting to speak tonight. Samantha McHugh, is that right? All right. So just to step up to the podium, if you will, and you have 3 minutes to talk to us. Yes, ma'am.
Good. All right. Hi, I'm here this evening to speak to you about House Bill 1202 regarding an educator's right to be armed on public school campuses. As a former educator who loved her career and only had to leave for extenuating personal circumstances, I taught in the 27th largest school district in the country. But I first want to commend the House members who voted in favor of this life-saving legislation, particularly our neighbors in Knox, Anderson, and Blount counties, Representatives Lafferty, Reagan, and Ritchie, respectively. I pray where I'm from, they eventually have the same common sense to accomplish this. Despite making it past the House, some Tennessee districts are still barring their employees' Second Amendment rights because they feel unsafe. They feel unsafe. Stop. This is a blatant declaration that they are hiring adults they might not trust. It reflects that there may be an HR issue instead of there being a scared of guns issue. Any glance at statistics of countries that ban firearms show that bad people do not need firearms to take lives. Countries that go that route have forgotten that deterrence matters. Bad people don't need guns to do harm, but they sure are a lot less active when they know good people have the upper hand. If we trust the professionals enough to hire them and be a critical part of raising the village, you should trust them as a deterrent to those who come onto our campuses and try to harm our family members. It should also be highlighted that this legislation doesn't automatically mean campuses will be flooded with gun-wielding English departments or holster having facilities teams. This is an allowance, a permission to exercise one's Second Amendment rights, not a requisite. Because I was a teacher, I know of several lockdowns I've been a part of during my tenure when I was desperate to have been armed. I knew if just a couple of us were armed and the people planning these horrific attacks knew we were armed, they would likely have not even tried. We were sitting ducks. As a mother of a high school student and an elementary school student, denying the Second Amendment right worsens their experience. Where we came from, in large districts, and this one's on its way to becoming a very large district, which I think those congressmen saw, or representatives saw, sorry. Every day they had to pass their backpacks and their bodies through metal detectors, and I don't think that's what we want here. This deters maybe, the metal detectors deter maybe emotionally unstable peers that might cause problems, but what would it do for an outside intruder? Nothing. What would do something is knowing that maybe, just maybe, there's a couple armed, trained, very caring school district employees on campus. As a representative from Tennessee Taking Action, I would like to also offer that we are offering a scholarship for any educators, staff, people who work on the campuses who would like to train and start their educational 40-hour required training per this legislation and stay compliant. So I'll be reaching out to you individually with contact information on how you can learn more.
Thank you. Next, Daphne Matthews.
Hello. Americans are caught in a game of political dodgeball. The problem is sane Americans have been rounded up, silenced, and grouped in the center, while uneducated people in the wings lunge balls of fire among them. Our education system is failing, not because our educators are unqualified, but because our politicians won't let them do their jobs. Now, thanks to President Joe Biden's administration, bastardizing Title IX and his inability to control terrorist groups on campuses, the schools can no longer simply guarantee safety. We are meeting tonight in a building that is sandwiched between the courthouse, jail, and sheriff's office on one side and the Children's Advocacy Center on the other. And that's significant because in this community does not have a plan to deal with this situation. Our children are the ones who will suffer. This is not a trans issue. I have known persons in the LGBTQIA+ community my entire life. If a true trans person was in a women's restroom, you would never know it. A true trans woman assimilates into the female community. They are not the problem. They have never been the problem for the last 50 years. And I'm tired of America making them the problem. The problem are the pedophiles and the rapists who are using it as an excuse to get into the women's restrooms. The little boys and girls who are dared by classmates to get into that opposite restroom just to see what they can get by with, and the teenagers who are going to be grabbing a quickie in between classes in their high school bathrooms. And are we even going to prosecute pedophiles anymore? How can we? Won't we get in trouble for hurting their feelings if we tell them they're not allowed in those spaces anymore? Here is what I presented to the governor, Representative Harshbarger, Senator Blackburn, and the Tennessee Attorney General yesterday. One, how do we protect our children with the new interpretation of the laws beginning August 1st, 2024? Two, trans persons aren't the problem. Pedophiles and rapists using political warfare ignorance is the problem. Three, let Tennessee stand up and say, I'm going to be the adult in the room. In fact, let Sullivan County. In my time, female rape victims were silenced due to revealing clothing and their friends. Now my granddaughter is going to be silenced because a 6'4" bearded man is going to be in her locker room and she's not going to be able to open her mouth because it might make her the transphobic kid in the room. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I guess that brings, you got anything else, Mr. Carter?
No, I thank everyone for being here tonight. This has been a great night of recognition and celebration, and I think we've accomplished a lot in a very packed agenda in our work session. But thank you very much.
I guess the next thing we need to do is set meeting dates. I lost my little sticker. The June meeting is Tuesday, June the 11th. We talked about that last time. Everybody's still good with that? And the July one will be Tuesday, July the 9th. June the 11th and June the 9th. I said that backwards. June the 11th and July the 9th. Work session at 4:30, followed by the board meeting at 6:30.
Did you say July the 9th?
Yes, sir.
I had the 11th on mine. It's Tuesday?
These are right. Yeah, June the 11th
No,
and July the 9th.
July 9th.
Yes, sir. About confused myself, which doesn't take much.
Before you go to board comments, Mr. Carter, do you have any dates available for the budget? Have they given you any information yet from the county?
We're awaiting the final numbers, but we were informed that we are to present to the Budget Committee on the 15th of May at this time. So we're hoping by tomorrow we'll have our rest of our information. We can have something together, so we would definitely need to meet with the board to present our agenda, our budget first.
Yeah, we'll have to have an approved budget before you go.
Right.
So today's the 2nd, and
Ingrid, what do you think? Right. Do we want to set a date tonight?
I think we need to.
Think we need to?
You'll have to.
All right.
no, we don't yet. You said the 15th of May is when the meeting with Budget Committee is?
With Budget Committee, yes, sir.
They just found that out.
So,
Next week? Can we do it? Can y'all be ready by the 9th, or do we need to do it 14th?
I would, 14th, Ingrid, on a Tuesday. True. That would put us on either the 13th or the 9th.
I think it's gonna be a long meeting, whatever we have.
No. So, we could do the ninth.
Can y'all be ready by now?
Ninth,
Dr. Rouse may not be able to do that.
okay.
What time works for you? 4:30 on the night, just plan to stay all night if we have to. 4:30 on the ninth, and if we have to stay here till midnight, I guess we will.
That's that afternoon at 2, a reception. Westridge has Honors Day at 6 that evening. Was the 13th bad for, that was Dr. Rouse, I believe, wasn't it?
Can you, what about 13th? Can y'all do 13th? Can you do 13th?
I'll make it work.
Are you sure? 13th?
Is there any way to get us a copy of the budget that weekend?
prior to that?
Friday?
Oh, okay. Ms. Stanley, what was that?
Yeah, we all be ready by the 7th?
That means we'd have to
That's,
probably
that's like,
get it to you this weekend. I don't know. Yeah. The 11th? 11th? As an option? I was gonna say, if we did it on a Saturday, I'd suggest do it early. Yeah. Uh-huh. I'm, the 10th, I won't be available. I apologize. It's just, it's a family, medical.
Wednesday the 8th.
Yeah, that's one. So, I don't think I could. Did you say the 8th? Yeah.
could we do a Wednesday night if we had to? Wednesday the 8th? Wednesday the 8th?
Can we make it a little later than 4:30?
That'd be better for me.
5:30 or something, I've got a reading.
Ms. Stanley, is that good? Can you hear us? The 8th?
And start at 5:30?
5:30? Upstairs. All right.
You could get a copy.
We'd like to
Budget
have it. Yeah.
A couple of days ahead.
Couple
It would-
days in
it would help
advance.
us to-
Yes.
All right. 5:30, yes, ma'am.
Our plan will be to have that to you by the 6th.
which is gonna push you.
Oh, you better believe it, yeah. Could be the morning of the 7th.
Yeah.
They'd give us Monday to really work on it. Deep.
The meeting is the 15th, right?
Yes, to the budget committee on the 15th. And then the full, I don't think we'll have the date for the full presentation.
Mm-hmm.
There were a couple.
Just go with it. We'll just go with the 8th.
5:30.
If we have to do another one, we'll just have to do another one. All right. Now we got that figured out. The only other thing I have is a couple things is graduation robes. If you want to pick them up, Ms. King said that you can get them tonight from her. Of course, we're going to be upstairs in her office or come by and see her before then and get them. I just want to say congratulations to all those Skills USA kids. That's awesome. Pretty good stuff. Teachers that support them. That's really good. Thanks to all of our administrators. I know it's Principals Week or Principals Day. Y'all are overworked and underappreciated, I know. But we appreciate y'all's leadership and what you do for the kids and the faculty of the schools. And the only other thing I wanted to talk about real quick was this past Tuesday, I went up to East High School and actually participated in, was a part of, from the sheriff's office on that life skills day they had. And I don't know who came up with that idea, but it's a great one. I think, what's her name?
Brooks Samples.
Yeah, Miss Samples and Miss Mumpower, I think, were key implementing that. But they had different stations, and I've got a list of them if anybody wants to see them, but there was 14 different areas that they divided the senior class up into small groups, and they went and listened to 14 different presentations. One of them, I'll run through them real quick, one of them was like banking, how to set up a bank account, how to run your personal finances. One was basic first aid. The insurance, life insurance, vehicle insurance, people there spoke to them. I was part of a cybersecurity and personal safety thing. They did a fire safety, how to tie a tie. Mr. Carter was there and showed them how to tie a tie. They talked about taxes, how to fill out your taxes, W-4s and all that. Job interviews, again, automotive stuff, automotive safety, what to do. THP was there and talked about how do you act when you get pulled over by a law enforcement officer? What do you do? Where do you pull over? That kind of stuff. And it was just really, really, in my mind, it was really good for somebody coming out of high school that's really going to join the real world here in the next 6 months. Some of the stuff, they probably never thought of. It was really, really good presentation, but I just want to say that was awesome. And other than that, I'm going to turn it over to, I'm going to start down there with Mr. Robinson, since he always gets on the end.
I don't really know much I can follow up with what you said. You hit everything. Congrats to our Skills going to state and getting first, second, third. I did compete in one of those back in the day. It was a few years ago. It was not an easy thing. Hubbard took me down there, and I disappointed him quite a bit, I think. We was building something, and I think it was stairs. And my mind just went blank. It's hard getting put on the spot to do that. But then I got home that evening, my dad had me building steps. Didn't have no trouble with it. So it is, that's huge for them going first, second, and third. That's big. Congrats to them. Thank you to our principals, our teachers, and everybody. Enjoy your days, your weeks, and won't be long. You'll have your little break, hopefully.
Mr. Jones.
I offer congratulations to the winners also, and I also do appreciate the principals who are here and those who are at school every day doing the work that they need to do. The Gear Up program that was mentioned tonight by Ms. Madgett is headed by Dr. Ronnie Gross, who is a former student of mine many years ago. But he has done an outstanding job with ETSU for probably almost 30 years. He did the upper BAM program, and was a former track star at Tennessee High. And so it's good to see that he was successful, and it's also good to see that he's passing along information to our upcoming graduates. But we're looking forward to May the 16th and 18th for high school graduation, and another end of the year. Thanks.
Mr. Spivey.
Yeah, congratulations to not only the students, but thank those sponsors and for all that extra time, as Mr. Carter said, but also the teachers that took the time to apply for those U-Trust grants. I mean, that's still $44,000 more that help our kids learn. Definitely appreciate the principals. Go ahead and, as Mr. Carter said, thank the teachers for their appreciation week next week, and definitely underappreciated. I'm really glad that Mr. Price pointed that out, because there's so many things like that in this district that if you just heard a snippet of a meeting or some complaints about what public schools do and don't do versus actually looking at the reality of what they do. It's why I love public education. And also, if anybody's interested, the presentation that Dr. Palmer gave and all the hard work that that team has put in, it's super impressive in a short amount of time, but it just shows that they're constantly thinking about the evolution of the education environment, but also our public community. We also are already dealing with some AI things. I mean, very proactive. So I just can't thank everybody enough. And I'm sorry to Ingrid and Director Carter and everybody that you still don't even have revenue projections yet. We're supposed to provide a budget in, I don't know, 6 business days, but all while you're trying to finish up a school year. But hopefully they'll get those to you soon from across the street.
Mr. Hughes?
Thank you. Thank you. First, I'd like to congratulate our U.S. Skills winners. If any of the parents wants a picture, I took some pictures I could forward. I'd like to remind everyone that we've spent the last 3 weeks testing while other school systems are teaching, which I thought was ridiculous. We had a second grader that made a comment that I thought was important. You know, teachers have to climb up and cover up clocks and maps and alphabets, and he said, I thought schools were here to teach us. That's a second grader that made that comment. So I think the legislators really need to take a look at what they're requiring us to do, requiring the students to do. 3 weeks out of school year is just excessive, in my opinion. Finally, I'd like to answer a question that was asked at the county commission to Mr. Carter and give a little background. As many of the board may or may not know, and some of the new members may not remember, we're about to hook east onto the sewer line. If that sounds familiar, it's because we discussed it back in 2019. So Mr. Glover asked Mr. Carter, he stated that Bristol wouldn't accept the sewer line and asked if we were going into the sewer business. Well, we're not going into the sewer business, but I think I want to remind everyone of the history of the sewer line for just a few minutes. This is just a summary, and I have a lot more detail. Beginning in May of 2018, Mr. Glover showed up to a county commissioner meeting before he was elected and begged them not to put a road to Westridge. But he didn't stop there. He went on to rant about the sewer line and threw out outrageous numbers that were nowhere near correct, and even said that they should bring Hughes over here to answer some of the questions since he's always so full of answers. Now remember, this was before he was elected. So in April 2019, he supported a resolution to stop the high school while it was under construction, even though we had to pay 300 people that was working every day. In May of 2019, he co-sponsored a resolution to give the school system $584,000 to build the sewer line. He did this so we would not. He gave us the $284,000. Then later, they took that $584,000 back when we refused to put in a 6-inch line. In a meeting with the mayor and a couple people present here tonight, one of the engineers told the mayor that he would not sign off on a 6-inch line. And at that point, the mayor turned to me and said I could be a peacemaker if I just built a 4-inch line. And I didn't do that. So while under construction, Mr. Glover tried to physically stop the line. For 8 months, they refused to allow us to use our own money. It took 5 resolutions to get it done. I want to share with you a few emails now. So all this was so public and so apparent, there shouldn't have ever been a controversy. The emails I have are between Randy Beckner and the mayor's office. I'm going to begin with June the 26th, 2019 at 2:42 p.m. Commissioner Glover was on site yesterday and shut down the work because the force line was not changed from 4-inch to 6-inch. I understand that a couple of commissioners were wanting to upsize it, but as we discussed, with a force main, bigger isn't better. If a force main is oversized, the sewage stays in the system and it goes septic and an odor would occur. When we met to review the preliminary plans, Commissioner King attended. This was discussed. They were told that the construction of the pump stations and the force line was for the sole purpose of serving the county schools, and there was no money for additional work. Based on this, we proceeded with the final design. It should be noted that the current design capacity would support the high school, a middle school, and possibly a future elementary school, and as many as 200 customers with the changing of one pump. 75 houses the way it exists now. So then in June of 2019, I believe it was, in July of 2019, a resolution to take back the $584,000 was sponsored by King and co-sponsored by Glover, Crosswhite, Crawford, and Hutton, and Harkrow. The reason was that the school system refused to put in a 6-inch line. He did this even after the engineers told them they wouldn't sign off on the line of this size, causing a bad smell. So Mr. Glover is well aware of what we were required to do and when we were required to, what the sizes were. It took 8 months and 5 resolutions to get our own money approved from one line item to the other. So I have all that documentation, Mr. Carter. Does that answer the question? Sure. Well, and for Mr. Glover's question, we're not going into the sewer business.
There's really nothing that I can add, so I won't belabor the point. Thank you, Paul, for everything you said, Randall, Matthew, and Mr. Price. I appreciate it because we do appreciate our principals beyond measure. Without the effective leadership at the top, the other things can happen as they trickle down. So I thank you to the teachers, and please let the teachers know that we as a board as a whole appreciate what they do every day, not just that 1 week out of May, and not just one day yesterday for you all. Thank you.
I guess I want to echo what everybody else said too. And thanks to all the principals and everything that you all have done at our schools for this year. I would like to let everybody know that we had 46 teams at Westridge a week and a half ago, and it was for the Kingsport Times Relay, and they had their track meet there. and it was amazing. We had teams from Kentucky, Virginia, North Carolina, I mean, everywhere that was there, and they just kept commenting on our facility and how nice everybody was there that was working the event. They also, at the end of the track meet, was talking about that was one of the fastest tracks that they have ever ran on. Also, I look forward to our 2024 graduation at East and West Ridge, and I'd like to congratulate all of the graduates this year. That's all.
Go ahead.
I think I forgot this, and I think maybe some of y'all did too, but Nurses Day, we did say there was a day for Nurses Day. A big thanks to our nurses out there.
Absolutely.
I left that off, and that was my fault. I shouldn't have done that, especially with my youngest daughter. She goes to the nurse quite a bit, whether she needs to or not. And the nurse has to speak with my wife a lot too. But they do a lot in our schools. If you've ever popped in on one of them, the kids they have in there, they come in for everything. And I've seen them. Sometimes I've heard the stories where they've actually saved a life or run out to a school bus. So we need to give them thanks also. They do a lot in our schools.
I got anything else? Motion to adjourn. So moved.